The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you. Hello and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
One word, cheeseburger. That is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him. That's technically a compound word. So, young Jeff Goldblum, what are you doing?
Yeah, I was trying to remember when I don't know that I've seen this movie probably like 30 years or something. It's been a long time since I've seen this movie. And God, it is so good.
It is so good.
It feels like, there are some people who are like diehard Cronenberg people. I like a lot of his stuff, but sometimes it's a little too Cronenberg.
Right. Too squishy, too wet.
Yeah, like that one he just made a year or two ago with the guy in the Crimes of the Future or something like that, with like the weird chair. That one, it was like, it didn't feel like there was much of a plot. It was just kind of gross. Yeah. I think sometimes when he has something to kind of build his story on, like pre-existing, like I feel like this and The Dead Zone are two of his like just absolute bangers because he's able to kind of incorporate his weirdness into something that's already there, so it's not just so completely amorphous.
Well, that's something, you just said something very interesting, because I'm sure a lot of people don't know The Dead Zone starring Christopher Walken was a Cronenberg film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is. There's not any wet puppets or anything, but...
Yeah, it's not his usual body horror thing, but I mean, there's... he has some themes that he comes back to over and over again, like distrusting what you're thinking, what the world around you. There's like The Dead Zone definitely has some Cronenbergian stuff, but it also, because it comes from the Stephen King book and everything, it just feels a little bit more like grounded. And I appreciate that, and I feel like this is the same way. He definitely took the original film and really went new places with it. It's not it's not the exact same story, but still having that sort of like foundation, I think is the better for it.
Yes, and before we go any further, I do want to let our audience know that yes, I am still sick, still dealing with that, as a matter of fact. But yeah, so exactly, like Cronenberg sometimes needs a skeleton to put his decrepit flesh upon.
Yeah, and like he is his upset. I'd forgotten this. Like obviously you think of like the "Long Live the New Flesh" thing from Videodrome and stuff. Like he has this flesh obsession, but there's a lot in this movie about flesh. Like flesh.
It is a very fleshy movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like they talk a lot before the fly incident and after the fly incident about like what it means, to be a living thing, what it means to have flesh. Understanding what that is and how it works and stuff is a big part of this whole story.
And do you think this is kind of where the whole teleporter, does it actually kill you? Are you really who you were when you went in? Or are you an entirely new being? I feel like this is the origin of that thought experiment.
Yeah, it does kind of feel that way. Like he sort of, like Seth makes a joke about that at some point when he comes through and he's like, yeah, I'm an exact copy of Seth Brundle, obviously we haven't come close to having teleportation technology really happening. But if we could do it, it does raise a lot of questions about what does that mean? Like, because it's not the same it's not like you're breaking down atoms and then transporting the atoms and putting them back. It's whole new atoms over there. So it's like a ship of Theseus kind of thing. Like,
exactly. Yeah. Well, here's another one for you. So every 10 years, literally all of your cells have died off, so arguably you're a brand new being every 10 years. just roughly and having the same structure as the previous one.
Yeah.
So, live with that body horror.
Yeah. It makes sense. We kind of, we think of things usually in terms of decades and stuff. And like, I feel like whether you're like, you often hear people say like, oh, my 20s were a mess. And then I got things together in the 30s or whatever. Like we think about this. So like maybe there's something to that for sure.
Right. And then also all of your memories are actually memories of those memories.
Yeah.
Every time you remember one, it's actually a memory of a memory. So that explains kind of why the memories kind of fade and degrade, or they become, rose-colored depending on the emotion you attach to them.
Yeah, and sometimes you have a memory that like, a lot of times if you're remembering like a moment in your life, there's nothing really to go off of. But like I've definitely had things where like I have remembered a movie and then I go back and watch it and I'm like, that didn't happen.
Right.
What am I remembering? Funny
you should mention that. To bring us back to this movie, I literally could have sworn there was an end scene with Gina Davis at a doctor's office where she was getting a checkup and they were like, yeah, it's a perfectly normal child that you're going to have. And I've looked, not here. So was I Mandela'd from another world where that did happen? Or, like you said, did I just misremember and put a hopeful scene in where I wanted it to be?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it'll show up in the second one? I don't know.
Okay. We'll get there when we get there, Anthony. Don't spoil next week already.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start this party with a very 80s style, like, sci-fi... almost John Carpenter-esque The Thing, like Scream, going into The Fly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the credits go. It's like, it's like smudgy stuff that I think is like people, but it kind of I don't know if it's supposed to look like what like an insect, how they would see people or whatever.
Exactly.
But
people in a hive.
Yeah. There's something. Yeah, like it is just humans, but there is something like kind of uncanny about what we're seeing there. Like they just don't. Yeah. It kind of boils us down to our animalistic nature in the way that it's shot.
Quite a bit. Now we also get to know that there's only 3 main cast members. Like this is a small cast movie for sure.
Yeah, it
Jeff
really.
Goldblum, Gina Davis.
Yeah, and then Gina Davis's boss.
John Getz is the actor. Stathis Barnes?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's wild. This movie doesn't feel tiny. Like, it feels big, but really it is. It's just those 3. Like, there's almost no other even, like, extras or minor characters. It's very streamlined.
Well, there are a couple minor characters that have some unfortunate breaks, but that'll come out later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a small cast.
So once we go from the credits, we're at, like, a conference where like scientists are getting together to, I guess, discuss new developments. And we have Seth Brundle, played by Jeff Goldblum.
Right, immediately going into his whole spiel with Veronica. What's Gina Davis's character's last name? It's Veronica something or other.
I don't remember. Like
Ronnie is what they call her.
Yeah. And it was weird because like I immediately clocked that she was a reporter. Like it was just obvious in like the way she was doing things that she was there to like report on this convention.
Right.
And Seth is very like gregarious. He really wants to talk about this thing that he's got cooking that's going to change the world. And she's like not really sure what to make of him. Like it's Jeff Goldblum. Like I think in recent years there's a lot of maybe just people in our generation, like a lot of millennial women who are like Jeff Goldblum is like the ideal guy. Like they're
right. Ian Malcolm, that's what did it.
Yeah. And it is like he has a certain charm to him, but he's also incredibly weird. And it takes the certain kind of woman to be like into that. And I feel like Ronnie here is like, I can't tell if I'm into this or not. Like, like it's pretty obvious that he wants to tell her because he's into her, and she doesn't know if she's like really going to go along for the ride here.
Veronica Quaife, that's her full name, the character's full name.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, this is kind of a meet cute, but she's there for her job, and he just wants to. He's really excited. He's a nerd that likes to tell people about his D&D character.
Yes, exactly.
So at first, like, she kind of is like, or he offers to, or he asks her back to his place, and he's like, I got a cappuccino machine, which, at the time that this movie came out, that was like,
that was a deal.
Yeah. It was like, there's that joke on, like, I think it's on Arrested Development, where they like have like old news footage, and it's like, coming up next, a cappuccino, a $5 coffee, like. And this is the time when suddenly, like, coffee being like fancy, and these various like foreign coffees and stuff were becoming an obsession in America.
Well, also, America's a wild place. For the longest time, we've refused anything other than coffee. We didn't know what went into it. It was just coffee. It's like, there's more to life. There really is.
But
you have to limit yourself, America.
Yeah.
You are.
So eventually he does kind of convince her to go back to his place, but then he reveals he doesn't even have a way to get back there. He has to ride with her.
Right, but he has motion sickness, so this isn't a good time for him.
Yeah, he hates traveling, which I thought was a really nice little touch. Like that, a justification for why he's doing this.
Yes.
I mean,
it makes sense, right?
Yeah. Like, it's obviously bigger things, but like, I like the idea that, like, just like a short-sighted kind of note, he'd be like, man, driving in a car sucks. Wouldn't it be great? And then from there, like, well, wouldn't this just change the world if we could do this? And then, like, buckles down and gets it done.
Right. But as he takes her home, he shows her these bug-looking, like, they look like beehives, right? That's the whole intention. Almost H.R. Giger-esque in their design. And then he decides to play a little jazz tune for Ronnie.
Yeah, and you can tell she's kind of like, what the fuck am I getting myself into? Like, this weird guy, he's playing the piano. She thinks
it's an old, phone booth? She's like, designer phone booths. That's really cool, dude. Good job.
Yeah, and he's like, just let me show you what they do. They're not phone booths. I call them telepods.
Because they teleport, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he makes it like a really frightening joke about, now that you've seen them, I can't let you leave. Like, and it's obviously meant to be a joke, but she's kind of like, he might be serious to a degree.
Yeah. But then, so his like demonstration thing, this is like what, like, you can tell he's like trying to do this as like a little bit of a pickup line kind of thing, and it's like almost creepy, but she's kind of into it, so it works okay. But he's like, basically, give me something unique to you that you have with you right now. Jewelry, like, clothing item, whatever.
Let me knock your socks off, buddy.
Mm-hmm. So she takes off one high heel and then, like, very sensually removes a single stocking.
Right.
And he's like looking shocked, like, oh, wow, I didn't expect that. And she's like, I don't wear jewelry. So this is what I got.
There you go.
So,
I mean, that's as personal as you can get, right? I guess it's really a sock. So, is it really that personal? I don't know.
Yeah,
over-sexualizing women is a thing, I guess.
Yeah. So he puts it in one of the pods. He presses some buttons on the computer. There's lights flashing, and suddenly the stocking is gone. And she's like, "Wow, I'm glad I didn't give you something nicer than a stocking."
Right.
And he's like, "No, wait,
you're missing the point."
Yeah.
He keeps saying you're missing the point.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting. Yeah.
So he opens the other pod, and the stocking's inside.
I love how her mind immediately goes to, "Oh, is this a hologram?" It's like, ma'am, you're more excited that it's a hologram versus just you got your stocking teleported. Where are your priorities?
Yeah. And he's like, "No, look, I mean, you could touch it." And she's like, I don't get it. And he's like, "You do, you just can't handle what you're realizing is true." Right. And so he goes into his whole spiel that he's invented teleportation and changed the world as we know it and all this.
Yeah. And when she actually has to catch up to him, like, she's in. She's like, "Oh shit, this is great. This is the coolest thing in the world." And then she turns on her tape recorder because she's like, "All right, I'm going to get quotes. I'm going to find out, what's going on in this guy's brain."
Yeah, and then that's what, like, it seems like either he didn't realize she was a reporter, thought she was just another scientist, or somehow thought this was going to be different or something. But, like, when she pulls out the tape recorder, he freaks out and he's like, no, you can't tell anybody about this. I wanted to share it with you, but it's not ready for the world yet.
Right. I feel like he got a little excited about seeing her. He knew she was a reporter the whole time. In this case, I think it's a flip on he was missing the point.
Okay, yeah.
That's what kind of... She's a reporter. She's there to report. And she says as much.
Yeah, and so she kind of, like, they sort of don't leave on great terms. She basically is like, I'm going to write a story about this. It's newsworthy. This is my job. Right. And she leaves, and then we see, like, the next...
Well, he tries to bring her the stocking bag.
Yeah.
I love it. And she's like, keep it for good luck, buddy.
Yeah.
Yes, why not?
So then we see, like, the next day, she's at work. She's talking to her boss, Stathis, and, you know, telling him what she's learned. And he's like, nah,
this is con.
Yeah, he's tricked you somewhat. It's a nightclub routine. He's not impressed at all. And like, he keeps calling him a magician.
Right. He had a stocking the whole time just in that other chamber.
Mm-hmm. And then the phone rings and he picks it up and he's like, yeah, okay. And he's like, well, sounds like your magician followed you over here. So I'm going to leave you the space. You can talk here. I'm out of here. So he leaves.
Right. But do you think, like, obviously, you would, if he's that comfortable to leave, he probably has the whole place bugged and he's picking up absolutely everything being said in there.
Yeah, that would definitely check out with, like, his just whole demeanor.
Right. He's gross. Mm-hmm. He's pretty gross.
Yeah. So when Seth does come in, he's really glad to hear that her editor is not interested in the story and doesn't believe it. Like, okay, cool. It's not going to get out.
Right. Well, she's like, he thinks you're a con man, and Seth's like, thank God. That's amazing. Yeah. Good job.
Yeah, she says he thinks you're a magician, and he's like, well, I do have one magic word for you. Cheeseburger. So we cut to them at a diner where they're eating, and he has a pitch. He's basically like, yeah, I get that this is an exciting story, but it's only going to get better. And I will give you the scoop. I will let you hang out in the lab. I'll let you film, record everything that's happening if you hold off on releasing it until it's all done, until everything is good and I'm ready to tell the world about what I've discovered.
Well, she says it beforehand, though. Bartok, the company he works for, and his colleagues, he says, will kill me. Probably metaphorically. Well, Bartok's a corporation, so probably literally, whereas the colleagues would do it metaphorically.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to have the conversation about teleporting living things. She asks him about that while they're eating burgers.
Oh, yes, yeah. And he's like, not while we're eating. I'll tell you about that. Like, that's the hump I'm trying to get over. I can do stockings all day long, but living things, still working on that.
That's a problem. And she's like, well, it can't be as bad as the burger. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty rough. And it's pretty rough.
Yeah. So then we just see, like, Veronica getting to her apartment later that evening, and she hears water running and is like, what's that about? So she, walks around the apartment and she finds Stathis in her shower.
He's a wonderful guy that let himself in. Great. Good job, buddy.
Yeah. And so we find out that he is her ex and he is trying to manipulate his way back into her life, and she's not into it.
And he kept the key. Mm-hmm. She was probably like, give me the key back whenever you get a chance. And he's like, yeah, sure. And then just never did it.
Yeah. So we do get a great moment where she flushes the toilet so that he can, it'll burn him in the shower. Yeah. They get in an argument, like, when he comes out, and, she's like, just give me the key back. And he's like, you haven't wanted it yet. Like, it seems like, maybe you still want me around. And she's like, I just am disorganized and just haven't gotten around to changing the lock or taking the key back.
Right. So she's clearly done. He is clearly not.
Yeah.
But we do learn that he's actually a good editor/journalist himself, because he did the research on Seth Brundle. Mm-hmm. Turns out he was a leader of the F-32 team. Like, we're talking the airplane?
Yeah, I think so.
The fighter jet?
Yeah, but he's like, yeah, this guy's respected in his field, like, so if he's doing stuff that he thinks is groundbreaking, it probably is. So
are you writing a book? What's the article looking like? How are we getting there, right? Mm-hmm. And she's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing any of that.
Yeah, she's like, I'm not even sure if I'm going to... There's another story I was interested in. I'm probably just going to drop this whole thing. And she's like, but we'll talk about that at work. That's work. You need to leave. Like, this is not your space anymore.
Yeah, and of course, because he's gross, he asks if he can come back and tuck her in later. Oh, this guy.
And tells her that he's going to keep her key still for old time's sake.
Old time's sake. Not so he can do awful things while you're half asleep.
Yeah. So then we go back to Seth's lab where...
All right, animal cruelty warning right away, folks.
Yeah.
If you didn't know what you're getting into, I'm sorry. You're gonna see some shit.
Yeah. So we're going to start, in the other films we've had like mice and guinea pigs and stuff like that, but like here, because it's all about, we got to have like something shaped like a human body. So we've got a baboon, and Veronica's there. She's filming. He teleports the baboon, and then we see in the other pod, it has like a kind of frosted glass window, and we just see a bloody handprint on the inside. And so, of course, Seth runs over, opens the pod, and we just see
bloody bubble gum in the shape of a baboon. Let's just say that. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I think he ultimately describes it as like having turned him inside out, basically.
Out,
yeah. A little later, she's interviewing him. She's asking him.
She's wondering what he's thinking. She's like, all right, we're going to get everything on tape. I need to know what your thoughts are while this is going on.
Yeah, and his thing is, okay, like, this computer understands inanimate objects, but it doesn't understand flesh. Like, it doesn't know how to recreate that, and it just kind of goes wild. Yeah.
And he can't suss it out for himself.
Yeah. So, then we have them a little later, like, post-interview. They're just kind of hanging out, like, sitting on the couch. And she's like, do you ever change your clothes? Like, this is like the third time I've seen you, and you're always in the same
totally.
thing.
Every single day.
Yeah.
Absolutely every single day. I just put these on a minute ago.
Yep. So he shows her his closet with all identical clothes.
Like a fucking cartoon character.
Yeah.
He says it was because of Einstein.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of scientists get in, like, I think it was Steve Jobs was really into, like, his uniform. Like, I don't, like...
I'm going to say, if Steve Jobs did it, I want no part in it. Look up fruitarianism. Enjoy.
Yeah. So then she's like, why don't I cook dinner? We can just keep hanging out and talking about all this. And he's like, or we could just go out. Like, I don't usually, like, cook here.
Right.
And they start flirting. They kiss. And then
she calls him cute.
Yeah.
Like, you really think I'm cute?
Yeah, this is starting to become mutual. Like, at first it was like he was kind of weirdly into her, and it was unclear how she felt, but she's definitely like the initiator here. So it feels like, okay, this is happening organically. It doesn't feel weird or gross or anything.
Well, this is also going to bring up a juxtaposition of things that happen after, we'll call it the incident. Because traditionally, like, he's not a traditionally masculine man at this point. He's kind of, nerdy. He's understated. He cares about her feelings. Weird. Bizarre.
Right. So they do end up having sex, and afterwards he's like, oh, man, something's wrong with my back. And
I got something stabbed in it.
Yeah, and it's a computer chip that, like, he had just, like, dropped in the bed accidentally, and it just kind of, like,
he's like, oh, that's where that went.
Yeah.
I love it. But this wound, he has a wound now. It looks like something scratched his back. Mm-hmm. That's going to become wildly important later. So much so. Yeah.
So she's like, kissing it to make it better, that kind of thing. And
she has cuteness aggression.
Yeah. She doesn't use that term. I wonder, like, when that term, like, originated, but, like, they're definitely talking about that for sure. Because she's like, I just want to eat you up, and, like, this is why old ladies pinch babies' cheeks. And she says, it's the flesh, it makes you crazy.
Right. And he's like, that's an idea. That's great.
Yeah. So he's got an idea. He runs out. And when she had said she would cook earlier, she was like, I brought some steaks with me. So he goes and gets the steaks, and he teleports one of them. And then after he does it, he cooks a non-teleported steak and a teleported steak.
But he fucks up his experiment. He fucks it up because he tells her which is which.
Yeah. So, like, he's like, here's the normal one, and she eats it, and she's like, yep, tastes normal, tastes like a steak. And then he's like, all right, here's the teleported one. She eats that, and she's like, it's missing something. It's like
synthetic.
Yeah, it tastes like a bland facsimile of a steak. Like, it feels like a steak in my mouth, but the taste is just not there.
Right.
And he's like, okay,
that's what
yeah.
it is?
Yeah, the computer doesn't understand the poetry of the flesh. It can get the molecules right and everything, but there's something more. There's something underneath that's powerful and primordial and not, easily explainable to, AI, basically.
Right. So now I'm going to go program it to fix it and teach it about flesh.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, he's going to work on that. She leaves. And
Well, she eats a normal steak before she does that. She's like, fuck that. Nah.
Yeah. As she gets in her car and drives away, we see Stathis has his car parked like behind a dumpster, and he follows her.
He's a creep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Creeper be creeping.
Yep. And so she goes to like a clothing store where she's like gonna pick out some like cool hip outfits for Seth. Like obviously she's into him, and he's got this uniform thing, and she's gonna try to like push him out of his boundaries a little bit and make him a cooler guy.
Right. Make him more like Ian Malcolm that he would become.
Yeah. But of course, Stathis follows her in and confronts her there, and he's super jealous.
Oh yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
He literally asks her if something got into her, like Brundle's big cock.
Yeah. And so, she's like, I'm not dignifying this with an answer. It's none of your fucking business. She
really
pays
isn't.
She pays for her clothes and storms out.
But he calls her a goddess. He literally says, "You finally done it. You've made me jealous. You're a goddess." Like, dude, you're doing too much. Calm down.
Yeah.
Like, it must be good, but damn, have some dignity, my man.
Yeah. So then, back at the lab, Seth is trying again with another baboon now that he's, taught the computer about the flesh, and it works this time. The baboon comes out, everything seems fine.
Right. It rushes him, but to like hug him instead of tearing out his throat like a normal baboon would, I guess. This is a really domesticated baboon.
Yeah. And yeah, so he's like, it's time for champagne. It's time to celebrate, and she's like, yeah, you're never going to have to get car sick again.
Yep.
And
we just have to wait for a few more weeks to figure that out.
Yeah, this is similar to the guinea pig in the other movies. Like, we gotta hang on to him for a little bit, make sure there's no abnormalities. We'll send him off to a lab that'll, look at him on like a microscopic level and make sure that we haven't done some horrific thing to his cells.
Right. Hopefully it doesn't involve vivisection, but almost certainly will.
Yeah. But that's gonna take a couple weeks, and she's like, well. Yeah. If, you're just kind of on hold for a couple weeks, maybe we could take a trip. Maybe we can, get out and celebrate, like go traveling together. And he's
like, romance thing?
Yeah, is this a romance that we're having? And she's like, yeah? Yeah. Yeah.
They kind of had sex about it already, so.
Yeah, and he's like, all right, well, let's get takeout. And he like,
let's do the most romantic thing ever. Order Chinese takeout, baby. I mean, for the time it was probably, but
yeah. So he's like calling, trying to make the order. Meanwhile, she sees an envelope from Particle Magazine, the magazine she works for, and she's like, "Where did this come from?" And he was like, "Oh, I think your boss dropped it off or something." And
he slid it under the door.
Yeah. So she's like, "That's weird." So she opens it up, and there's like proofs for like the cover that like Stathis is going to give the Seth story, like a big cover story in this, in a coming issue or whatever.
This is a not so subtle nod to I still have control over you to a degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she's like, I gotta go. I'll be back. And he's like,
I have to scrape the residue of my old personal life off my shoe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, she leaves, and he, he doesn't go through with the takeout or whatever. Like, and we see her at the office confronting Stathis, and he's like, you told me you got this great story. I looked into it. The background checks are clearing. Let's publish it. And she's like, no, this story is too big to like, try to do a scoop and not actually get the whole story. Like, if we do that.
Yeah, because Stathis is a great guy. He's like, whatever you find out, technically I need to find out because I'm your editor still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whatever you write, I own it. So if I say you're going to write this, you're going to write this. And And she's like, just trust me, whenever the story's ready, it'll be a much bigger deal. Just give me some time. And he's like,
he actually
all right.
respects this boundary, which is amazing.
Yeah, he's like, just keep me in the loop. I am your editor. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's reasonable.
Well.
Yeah.
Also your friend.
But then he's like, what about, we could just keep having sex. Like, we don't have to have like a relationship anymore. What about just good old fashioned, emotionless,
sex between friends,
stress relieving sex? And she is disgusted by this proposition and just leaves. Meanwhile, we see that Seth, back at his apartment, is also starting to feel jealous as well.
Well, he's figured it out. He's like, oh, that's her editor was her ex. Clearly.
Yeah. And so he's like pacing around. He's talking to the baboon who's sitting there. And he's like, clearly this is her ex. I wonder if they're still fooling around. Yeah. I'm such an idiot that I didn't catch this.
Meanwhile, the baboon's shooing away a fly.
Yeah, there's one buzzing around. Classic fly thing here. Yeah. And then Seth, he's been like pacing around drinking, and he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kill your brother, but I wouldn't ever ask you all to do anything that I wouldn't do. So I guess it's time. And he just like
George Patton or whatever he says.
Yeah.
I've never sent soldiers to do what I would do or what I can do.
Yeah.
But anyway,
he programs the pod to like start in like a minute or whatever. He climbs in, and as it closes up, we see that the fly has followed him in. There's a fly in the pod. Also,
the baboon does a baboon thing and just tears up a seat cushion. Because why not? Yeah. It's a baboon. What does it care?
Yeah. So the teleportation happens. Seth pops out the other side. Everything seems okay.
Yeah, everything's fine. What could have happened? Where'd that fly go, by the way, Anthony?
Right. And he's like, it's a shame Ronnie missed it. This was a big one.
Right. He even wonders, is this like a Ship of Theseus moment? Like, am I really, truly me? Or just the reassembled particles that used to be me? Am I something new now?
Yeah, this is definitely the point where he kind of realizes that this might have bigger ethical ramifications than he was thinking about when it comes to transporting a stocking or whatever.
And yet somehow he still doesn't get it, right?
Yeah.
Like, there'll be some conflicts that he will butt up against, and he just won't get, like, he's this close, like, just inches away.
Yeah. So at some point he dozes off, and then we see Ronnie letting herself in later. She finds him asleep and like wakes him up, and he's like, "Oh, I missed you last night." And she's like, "No, it's still midnight, or it's still night. I came back a little late." And he's like, "Oh, you missed it. I went through earlier." And she's like,
"Oh shit, you could have killed yourself, bro."
Yeah, you didn't run all the tests on the baboons yet. And he's like, "I was drunk. I was kind of upset." And she's like, "What? That's not a reason to do this." And he's like, "Tell me this, though."
Are you with status?
Yeah. And she's like, "We're talking about like really like life or death stuff here, and this is." She's like, "No, you don't have any reason to be jealous. He's my ex. I don't have any feelings for him."
But also, this is kind of the toxic masculinity seeping back in, right? Mm-hmm. Because Seth Brundle, as we mentioned earlier, is not technically like your normal idea of a masculine man.
Yeah. She's like, "Well, I'm still sad I missed the transport." And he's like, "I taped it for you. You can watch it tomorrow."
Right. So he's still thinking about her, even in his selfish moment.
Yeah. So they cuddle up and like fall asleep. And at some point, like in the middle of the night, a fly is buzzing around, and Seth just like, while asleep, just grabs it out of the air effortlessly, and then like looks in his hand like, "Holy shit!" Like I like woke up out of a dead sleep and just did that. That's crazy.
Right. I think this is where that scene from the first Spider-Man movie in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, where he just reaches out and grabs, what is it? I think it is a fly, literally at that moment. Mm-hmm. It's got to be a reference, right?
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, this is definitely the kind of movie that Sam Raimi would be a fan of.
Well, I mean, it's literally the origin of Spider-Man. This is Flighter-Man.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, once Seth wakes up, he gets out of bed and he like wanders, back into the lab, and then we see just like some time has passed, and now Ronnie also wakes up. She's alone in bed and also walks into the lab to see what Seth's up to. and
He's doing some gymnastics, man.
Yeah, just doing unbelievable shit that would be like challenging for like a gymnast who's been training for years, and he's just doing it like it's nothing. Like all kinds of weird pull-ups and just like doing. He's got a lot of equipment which seems like he wouldn't even have.
Right.
He's
How
got,
is
like,
this lab equipment, sir?
Yeah.
The high bar or whatever it's called.
Yeah, but the whole time, like, he's dead silent, and so is she. Like, I think they're both just so shocked that this is happening.
Going on, yeah.
Yeah, they don't even really know what to do with it. And then we just see, like, a little later, they're kind of, like, on a date. They're, like, walking through a street market. He buys her a necklace. Which I thought was a cute thing, because, like, we had earlier, like, she took off the stocking because she was like, I don't wear jewelry. And, like,
this
he's
time
like,
she does.
Yeah, he's giving her some jewelry. So it's kind of sweet. And then we see them like at a coffee shop. Again, fancy coffee coming back to be a factor in this movie.
Right. No shade to this man, or no shade to espresso. I understand why he's dumping so much sugar into it. Like, he's just caking it in there. Mm-hmm. And she literally says, do you like espresso with your sugar?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
And the whole time, he just keeps dumping it in, and he's just talking a mile a minute. He's just, he's like, I think
she'd improve me. It made me a king.
Yeah, I think that it somehow, like, purified me. It got rid of all the toxins. It only transported the best parts of me.
Right, like through a strainer. Yeah.
So we just cut from this conversation back to the apartment where they're having sex again. And, like, it seems like when we cut into this, it's like the tail end of, like, they're both kind of, having, like, their orgasm moments or whatever. And then he's like...
It's the tail end for her.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I could still keep going. Let's do this all night. And she's like, I'm done, bro. It's over. We're cutting it.
Yeah, we've been doing this for hours. And, yeah, she's not... Yeah. So then as she's getting up, though, she's like, wait, what's that? And she, like, on the back of his neck, there's, like, a patch of, like, really strange, thick, coarse black hairs.
Yeah, it's the wound from the microchip.
Mm-hmm. And he's not concerned at all. Like, he's just like, it's fine, I'm, like, maybe I'm
getting older.
Yeah, strange hair grows in places. That's just part of getting older.
By the way, his face is visibly splotchy at this point.
Yeah. So she goes to the kitchen, and he gets up and follows her, and pulls out like a tub of ice cream out of the freezer and just starts eating that while she gets scissors and starts trying to clip the hairs off the back of his neck.
Right. And as she's doing so, then he gets the idea, hey, you need to go through the machine right now. Like, right this second.
Yeah, this feels kind of eugenics-y, where he's like, you could become pure and perfect like me, and then we could be like the power couple. Like, we could take over the world.
Right.
We'd be,
unstoppable.
Like, yeah. And she's like, no, I am scared. I don't know what this is doing to you. We still don't even know what it did to the baboon. I'm not ready to do this. And
he's like, are you fucking drag? Like, he gets mad at her. Calls her a fucking drag.
Yeah.
Damn.
And she's like, clearly something did go wrong. You are different. You have changed. And we need to figure it out before it gets worse.
Well, if you can't keep up with me, I will go find someone who will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
ugh, gross.
Yeah, he's turning it. This is where he's like the most Cronenbergian, where he's like, I need to find someone to wade into the plasma of the unknown, to penetrate beyond the flesh, like just getting into this weird.
Drink deep or taste not the plasma pool.
Yeah.
Sure, buddy. Cronenberg was on something at this time. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
Probably still is.
So at this point, he storms out of his apartment, leaving her behind, and goes to a bar where to
eat a candy bar.
Yeah. And he orders a drink, and he sees that there's this woman watching these two guys arm wrestle, and he starts...
We'll find out her name's Tawny, and what's the gentleman's name? Sorry.
I don't think I even wrote it down.
Was it Marky? Marky's the guy.
Okay.
She wants to go home with Marky.
Yeah, and so, Seth starts flirting with her. She's not really into it, and he's like, I bet $100 and a night with Tawny that he can beat both of these guys at arm wrestling.
Yeah, and she's like, what do I look like, a streetwalker? No, thank you. And yeah, because he's in full toxic masculinity mode. He's like, oh, kind of. That's why I did that.
Yeah. So she sits there, and like, you know, Marky's like, it's fine. Like, this is an easy $100. Like, he's like, yeah, I'll gamble you because I'm gonna win.
He's a bigger guy than Jeff Goldblum at the time.
Yeah.
Probably not as tall. I think Jeff Goldblum's like a tall fellow.
Yeah.
Is what I understand.
But he's very like scrawny, especially at this time period.
Okay, we saw the dude without a shirt on. He's kind of built. Like, that's lean muscle, but it's still muscle.
Yeah. He's cut, but he's not like bulky.
Yeah, he's not jacked.
Yeah. But yeah, then we get probably the most like famous scene from this movie. I saw this scene when I was like 6 or 7. My dad was watching this, and it fucked me up for weeks.
I didn't know. Like, I don't remember it being this traumatic though.
It's a really good special effect. Like, it looks real. So yeah, they arm wrestle, and Seth manages to break the guy's arm
Visibly.
Yeah,
bone going through the skin.
Yeah, the flesh rips open, the bones protrude out, and the guy obviously screams. But somehow, like, Tawny is like, all right, I guess I'm going to fulfill my end of the deal.
Right.
And she goes home with Seth after Seth has broken her boyfriend's arm. It's crazy.
Probably killed the guy with the way he just bursted his bones through his skin.
Yeah. He's either dead or needs to be in the ER right now. And if Tawny's not taking him, who the fuck is?
I guess his buddy.
Yeah.
Tawny ain't loyal.
No, yeah. And they're just like walking along. She's really impressed with how strong he is. And he's like, I'll take you back to my place. And she's like, let's stop at another bar on the way, though.
Right. Well, she asks, like, what he does. And he basically is like, yeah, I take bodies apart and then put them back together again. Like, he's literally saying, I'm Frankenstein.
Yeah. And so when they get to the apartment, they're going up the stairs, and she's like, do you not have an elevator? Like, this is a lot of steps. And he's like, and he just like picks her up effortlessly, and he's like, don't you feel elevated? And just like, walks up all the stairs with her.
Yeah, I think she's drunk at this point, and stairs are hard anyway. Mm-hmm. But not for Seth Brundle, not now.
Yeah. So of course he takes her into the lab, and he wants to show off the telepods again, and she's like, what are you some sort of magician? And he's like,
sure.
Yeah, I am. And they immediately have sex. And then...
I guess she liked it. She seems pretty like, hey, can we go get breakfast?
Yeah.
Fair.
And he's like, maybe later, but first, why don't you go through the machine? And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. And he's like, I promise, like, it's great. It'll make you feel sexy and powerful. And she's like, I'm already sexy. I don't...
Right.
Which, good for you. Like, she's got some good self-esteem.
I mean, she's not wrong. But she's like, she then says, I'm afraid. Mm-hmm. And Seth's like, no, there's no reason to be afraid. And we get an interruption by Ronnie, who says, no, you should be afraid. Be very afraid. Dun, dun, dun. That was like a big thing in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is like the tagline on this movie, on like the DVD cover, says, be afraid, be very afraid. And so in the sort of like distraction of Ronnie reappearing, the other girl leaves, and Ronnie's like, Seth, you are changing. And he's like, yeah, I'm powerful. And she's like, no, you look awful. You look bad. You
smell bad. Mm-hmm. Because he's only eating sugar, literally just sugar.
Yeah, and she's like, and I took those hairs that I clipped off of you to the lab. They're not human. And he's like, what do you mean? Of course they are. She's like, no, they're not anything. There's nothing like these, but the closest thing is insect hairs.
Interesting. You'd think they would be able to narrow it down a little bit more if they were able to tell, oh, these are insect hairs.
Yeah, but he's just not hearing it. He's not ready to take on this information. So he's like,
he says, you're jealous. You're trying to ruin me. She's doing nothing of the sort.
Yeah. And he just like punches a hole in the wall, and he's like, "Can a sick man do that? Like, I'm powerful." And he's like, "Why don't you get out of here? I don't want anything to do with you anymore." And
I remember when I was a shitty 14-year-old. Jeez.
And so she runs out crying, and then we get like our explicit Frankenstein moment here, where like after he is scared away, the one of the few people who seem to care about him. He looks in the mirror, and he finally has to acknowledge, like, oh, maybe she's right. Maybe I am turning into a monster of some kind.
Right. Well, he sees there's weird hairs growing out of his face now. Like we have a couple on his nose, on his cheek. He's like, maybe I just need to shave, I guess. But as he does it, like the hairs are hypersensitive because they're insect hairs, and it hurts to try and shave them.
Yeah.
So he throws the razor in anger, and he's like, "Fuck."
Yeah, and then when he does that, like one of his fingernails like bends back, and he's like, "What?" So he starts looking, and all his fingernails just like he can just peel them off effortlessly. They're
and
no
pus
longer...
comes out with him. He like pops it like a pimple. It's maybe I shouldn't have said that. I apologize.
This is definitely like the body horror is kicking up a notch from this point forward.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh shit, am I dying? Did going through that thing give me like some weird cancer?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like once he peels off the nails, we also see that there's just like a milky liquid just like dripping out of his fingertips. And yeah, he looks at himself in the mirror as this is all going on and is like, "What's happening to me? Am I dying?" And he is like, "Well, I got to see what the computer says." So he goes up, pulls up the records of his teleportation, and learns that there was
a not Brundle in the machine.
Yeah, there was a primary teleportation element, Brundle, but there was also a secondary element. And he's like, "Okay, what was it?" And the computer's like, "Not Brundle." Everything is either Brundle or not Brundle.
I mean, if you program it that way, sure. And arguably, it's correct.
Yeah. So
he either is or is not Brundle.
Yeah. So he like is able to pull up like a microscopic close up of a piece, an element of the not Brundle, and he keeps zooming out and out and out, and then we see a fly.
Right, yeah. It was a fly. And he's like, "Well, what happened?" And he keeps telling it to create a disc. It's like, I mean, sure, but how does it reporting back to you do that? I mean, you already have the information. Anyway, that's getting into it here and there. But it's a fusion. We fused you. Yay!
Yeah, because he's like, "Did I just absorb a little bit of fly DNA? That's probably fine." And it's like, no. It's a full-on fusion.
Yep. At an atomic level. Dun, dun, dun. And he's like, "Oh, shit, I'm fucked."
Yeah,
oh, no.
So then we just have like Ronnie getting a phone call from Seth, and she's like, "I haven't spoken to you in weeks."
Ronnie is smoking at her word processor. How fucking 80s is that?
Yeah, like that. You would not see that today, that's for sure.
No. Maybe with George R. R. Martin's house. Not the smoking. Maybe the smoking. Anyway, the word processor, definitely.
But yeah, so she's like, "I haven't talked to you in weeks." So some amount of time has passed since we've last seen Seth. And he's like, "Listen, I need you." Like, there was a while there.
I was afraid of you seeing me, but now I'm afraid of you not seeing me.
We have, Ronnie and Seth. They're like, he kind of admits that like things are getting worse than he even expected. And
yeah, well, he's walking around on like these. What are they called? They're not walking canes. They're like support braces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's like using two of them and kind of like walking sort of like on four legs, sort of.
Now he's weird and melty though. Like he's got visible weird white stains everywhere. You don't want that. You don't want a girl to show up while you got that on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And he's like, every day I'm getting more hideous and more monstrous, and he tells her about the fly. And he's like,
he recites the old woman who lived in the shoe poem. Perhaps she'll die. And she's like, "What the heck are you talking about, man?"
Yeah. And he's like, "Yeah, it seems like my teleporter is also a gene splicer." And she's like,
real good.
We need to go somewhere higher up. We need to run tests. And he's like, "No, I don't think that really is going to do anything at this point. I don't want to be a specimen. Right. I just want to like live my life. I don't think I've got much left."
He's like, "This is a novel form of cancer, basically, that I've given myself. Fly cancer, if you will."
Yeah. But then he has like a plate of food and he picks it up and then he just like vomits all over it. And
he's like, "That's gross." Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, she looks horrified as well, and like he like touches his ear just like anxiously, and his ear just falls off in his hand. Right. And he's like, "Okay, I'm scared now. Please, whatever it takes, help me."
Quite literally, hug me. I'm scared, and she does. Good for her for being able to look past all the the goo and stuff.
Yeah.
I would probably just do the pat, the long pat. Right. Like, there, pal, there.
So then we just cut to like later. She's talking to Stathis again, and he's like, "You can't go back there. This could be contagious. You don't know what it is." Right. And she's like, "No, it's not contagious. It was genetic. It's all like isolated to him. I'm fine."
Because Stathis is such a good guy, he's like, "Can I have your body when you die?" Because gross.
Yeah. And finally, he's like, "Okay, if you record him and you get good video of everything that's going on, and I can see that this is really happening, maybe I can come up with some way to help."
This guy has tonal freaking whiplash. Like, he's too much of a real person. I don't like it, Anthony.
Yeah.
Like, he's gross, but also he's like, "No, for real, I'll actually help you because I care about you."
Yeah.
But also, I'll say some heinous shit. And then, okay, no, but really, I love you. Okay, all right, cool.
Right. So, of course, she agrees to this. She goes back to Seth and finds him walking around on the ceiling, which obviously freaks her out. But he's, like, feeling better. He's in good spirits. He's like, maybe this is for the best. Maybe this is how things had to play out. Maybe I'm evolving. I'm the next stage in evolution.
Maybe this cancer was benign. He says, "Oh, by the way, I've stopped biting my fingernails," because he doesn't have any now.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, I am become Brundlefly, basically.
Right. Quite literally, yeah.
Yeah. So,
but he also shows her some weird new organs. He's like, "What's that? I don't know." He's like, he's entered a manic stage almost.
Yeah. And I think I appreciate this about, like, a lot of times in like this kind of a genre movie, it's like we just really want to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible without anything unexpected.
Cronenberg's going to let you sit with it.
Yeah, and like the idea that he would be like into it and then angry and then upset and then excited, like he's dealing with all the emotions and we're kind of like riding the roller coaster with him.
Yep.
And he like, I think he's like, "Okay, go ahead and I want you to record this. This is for posterity."
We're going to record the life and times of Brundlefly. Mm-hmm. We might put this into a kid's book. Yeah, that's what this is. Mm-hmm.
So he goes into specific details about how he eats now.
Much like a fly, I have to liquefy my food, or Brundlefly has to liquefy its food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By the way, talking about himself in the third person now, officially,
like definitely not a good sign.
No.
And so
either you're an asshole or you're little. There's something wrong.
Yeah. And so we see him filming this, and then we just kind of cut to Stathis watching the footage later
with a like horrified look on his face. He's like, "Fuck."
Yeah. And then Veronica comes in while he's watching it, and she's crying, and she tells him that she's just learned she is pregnant with Seth's baby.
Yeah, rough. And this brings up an interesting question, namely a debate that's still going on, to everyone's chagrin. Should people have the right to... Are we allowed to say abort on things?
I think so. I would think so.
All right. Well, the early release of children. I could have probably worded that a better way, but you know what? It's fitting. It's appropriate. Let's do it.
Yeah, and so at this time, like it seems like it's going to be challenging for them to do this. She's like, I think I want this. Like, I don't know what I'm going to end up with, and I'm scared.
Now, Stathis actually is a human being here. Just no grossness at all. He's like, "Hey, I get it. Maybe sit on this for a couple days, see if you still feel that way." And she's like, "Nope, happening today." Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. I don't want this thing inside me anymore.
Right.
So they go to the doctor. And she's at a hospital, and there's like a procedure, and the doctor's like, "Okay, well there's something else still in there. I'm gonna need you to push. There's more than we expected." And so she's, like, "No, I shouldn't have to push for this." And he's like, "No, you got to push," and she does. And then
it's a maggot.
Yeah, like at first we see her face, and she starts screaming with horror, and then we see this big wriggling larva maggot. And then she wakes up. That was just a dream.
It was all just a dream. Yeah. And she cries about it in bed, which, same. I understand. I empathize with that.
Yeah.
Especially after that dream. Yeah. So then we cut to Seth typing away at his computer. His fingers are actually fusing together now. Mm-hmm. That's good. That's a good sign, right?
Yeah. And he's trying to get the computer to find a solution for Brundlefly. And the computer's solution is maybe if you teleport...
Well, originally it doesn't understand him now because his voice is so different.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, we're gonna try this manually, bro. You're gonna have to type in what you want.
Yeah. And so the computer says the solution is to combine Brundlefly with an additional pure human specimen, and that this might make the fly DNA so minuscule in the whole process that he'll become more human again.
Yeah, but you also have more human DNA. What's that gonna do?
This just sounds like an excuse, like the ending of Curse of the Fly or the ending of The Substance.
Yeah, but also he puts his pencil between his teeth, and as he gets this information, he pulls it out, pulls all of his teeth out with it. Mm-hmm. That's fun.
Yep, just more breaking.
Did you ever have
down.
that dream, Anthony? Where all your teeth fell out?
Yeah. I know it's a common one.
I never had that one.
It's real weird. Like, it's a very unpleasant sensation.
Now, I've had the one where I was running down the hall, and I think I was being chased by Freddy Krueger, but I think actually that was because I was living on Elm Street. No, I'm sorry. The long hallway that just never ends and you never can actually.
Yeah.
Nothing was chasing me. I don't know. Anyway, that was a horrible joke.
So Veronica comes back in and she sees him with all the teeth in his hand, and she almost tells him that she's pregnant. Like, you can tell that's why she's here. She starts to, and then she just backs off because she's like, no.
He comes out of the bathroom and he's like, hey, just lost all my teeth. Oh, I lost the other ear. We see something that presumably is his junk because he doesn't have any, visibly. That's fun.
Yeah, he's filled his medicine cabinet with the museum of former parts of Seth Brundle.
Yeah, or the natural history of Brundlefly or whatever.
Yeah. And yeah, so she's about to tell him this, and then he starts getting really weird. Like, he says, "You have to leave now," and she's like, well, "Why?" And he's like, "So insects don't have politics. They're brutal."
Have you ever heard of insect politics?
Yeah, they don't compromise. They do what they're gonna do. But I want to be the first insect politician. And she's like, "What does that mean? What? I don't understand." And he's like, "I'm saying I'm gonna hurt you if you stay."
Well, he also says, I'm an insect that dreamt it was a man. What is that a reference to? Was that like, I want to say Ovid, but I'm not sure. Or no, it's Kafka, right?
Oh, from the Metamorphosis?
Yeah.
He says, like, that the dream is over. Like, this is the true me.
Now.
Yeah. There's kind of been a running theme that, like, we've kind of glossed over where, like, he several times has talked about the real him, the true version of him. Like, there was a point where...
When he went through originally, he was like, hey, it purified me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now he's convinced that this fly is the true Seth Brundle. And so, of course, when he threatens to kill her, she leaves. And when she runs downstairs, Stathis is, like, in the car parked outside. And she's like, we got to do it now. And he's like, okay, yeah. She, again, is like, I do not want this thing in my body. I don't know what it's doing to me, but I don't feel safe.
Right. So they take her to the doctor. The actual doctor this time, not the dream one.
We see that Brundlefly was on the roof of the apartment watching them have this conversation by the car. So he knows what's up now. Yeah. So we then cut to the doctor where Veronica is like... The doctor's kind of skeptical, like, wait, you, in the middle of the night, suddenly needed an emergency abortion? Like,
and Stathis is, I don't know, is this a good thing? Is this mixed? Because he's like, she's really worried the child is going to be, born with, how does he say it?
He says deformed.
Deformed, right. Which, that's not great, but I get where you're going.
And the doctor's like, what makes you think that? And
is it yours?
And he's like, no, the father is also deformed.
Yeah. And, like, yeah, he's not saying what has happened, really. So he's actually covering for both Seth and Ronnie.
Yeah. And the doctor's like, why don't you come back tomorrow? This is not the way we do these things. And she's like, this is coming out of me tonight. You can do it, or I'm going to do it. So he's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. But so he leaves the room to kind of like, scrub up and prepare and everything. And while she's just laying there waiting for him to come back, the Brundlefly, bursts through the window, grabs her off the gurney, and jumps back out the window with her. And when I think he takes her, does he take her to the roof or the alley?
He takes her to another roof, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, please don't do this. This baby could be all that's left of the real Seth.
Right.
Please don't kill me.
Wow, that's powerful. Please don't kill me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, fuck, man. That's hard to pass up, but also you got to understand, right?
Yeah. And she's like, I can't go through with it. I don't know what's going to come out. I'm not going to do it. And he's like, yeah, you are. Too bad. Yeah. So we just cut to later. Stathis arrives at Seth's lab.
He's got something with him.
Yeah, some kind of like plastic carrying case.
Oh, it's a gun case.
Yep. He opens it. It's parts of a shotgun. He assembles it. Starts walking around.
I don't know how familiar you are with guns, Anthony. How familiar are you with this?
Like moderately so.
So if the gun comes assembled like this, chances are this guy just bought the gun for this one purpose. He had just came from the gun shop. So I thought that was kind of funny. But it also had a bunch of cleaning stuff thrown in. So
yeah.
And it literally, they could have been like, yeah, you're going to need this to clean the gun. He's like, yeah, sure, whatever, and threw in the case. I feel like we missed out on a funny scene. The 80s and their gun shop scenes were the best. See Terminator. Anyway.
So we have him just kind of snooping around. He looks on the computer and now sees that there's a third telepod that's been built that's going to be used in some sort of gene splicing.
Right. And he actually investigates, and it finds out that subject from pod A and subject from pod B will be combined into pod C.
Mm-hmm. But then suddenly the Brundlefly comes down from the ceiling and attacks him.
Yeah. The shotgun doesn't get much use now.
Yeah, it vomits all over his hands, which cause them to just melt to bloody stumps.
This is powerful acid.
Mm-hmm. And
then he tries to use his foot to bring the gun over.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm not letting that happen, buddy. You're silly.
Yeah, so he melts off one of his feet, and then he's about to just vomit acid all over his face.
Jeez.
But then Ronnie appears, and she's like, please don't. Please let him go. He didn't do anything to you.
Not yet, he didn't.
Yeah, so he then crawls up to the ceiling and is like, please help me. Help me
become more human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think,
but by the way, we're going to be one person. So.
Yeah. I think the please help me thing is a nice little callback to the Fly in the original.
Help me.
Yeah. And so he explains you, me, and the baby, we're all going to go into the machine together. We're going to be the ultimate family, joined together in one body, but at least we'll be more human.
A true Cronenbergian.
Yeah. And so obviously she is not having this. She does not want to turn into the, Monstro Elisa Sue.
Yeah, right. By the way, if you're squeamish and you're watching it, this is when you want to turn it off.
Yeah.
Because this is going to get real hard real quick.
Yeah, she hits him and just
knocks
pulls
his jaw off.
Yeah, his whole jaw just falls off in her hands.
Yeah. So his head just...
Yeah, and then suddenly just his flesh starts splitting open and breaking down. Chunks of it are falling off.
And that reveals a human fly. The most awful thing I think that has ever existed.
Yeah, up to this point, it's been Seth Goldblum, in like Jeff Goldblum
Prosthetics.
in a bunch of like prosthetics to make him look more fly-like and more decaying. But now we have like this fucked up fly puppet creature thing.
Yep. So wet.
Yeah, it's really good. And of course, the fly grabs her and throws her into one of the pods, and then starts moving towards the second pod. But Stathis manages to get a little bit of.
Well, the fly gets in the second pod, and he closes it. So this is going on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Stathis does say, hey, I got one good leg and one good arm, baby. They're not the primaries, but we'll do this.
So he fires at the pod, but he hits like the wiring coming out of it. So he has disconnected the fly pod from the whole contraption.
Listen, that's good enough. He saved Ronnie, right?
Mm-hmm. So, of course, the fly comes storming back out. But like he steps out, and then that's when like the pod flashes. So it like the light sort of comes out of the pod and manages to sort of evaporate him.
Yeah, so he gets teleported. Mm-hmm. But it was expecting something else to be in there with him. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't. So
So Stathis rushes over and lets V out of the other pod. And then the computer, dings and says, successful fusion of Brundlefly and Telepod.
Right.
So, yeah, he's meshed with the inside of the telepod instead of another person.
God, that's awful. That's so Lovecraftian.
Yeah, so the door of the pod pops open, and the fly puppet thing just kind of collapses out the door and starts crawling towards Veronica. It looks even worse than it did before.
Right. But then, it grabs the gun that she now has. Mm-hmm. She's picked up the gun, and she's like, I can't do it. I'm not going to kill you. And
it like holds the gun to its head, and she says, she's like crying and begging no, and then finally she knows that this is what has to be. This again kind of takes us back to the original The Fly,
crushed in the machine.
Yeah, his one true love has to be the one to put him out of his misery.
But isn't it interesting that like the previous one had the one arm that needed to be destroyed, but this creature, this whatever you would call it now, abomination, I don't know, puppet, only has the one arm. Mm-hmm. Like it is all the Fly.
Yeah.
So whereas the other one we can only show the human parts, there's no human here except for the mind.
Yeah. So she shoots him, and we go straight to credits, basically. It's a pretty abrupt ending.
It is a very, like, traumatic scene to end on.
Yeah. So that's Cronenberg's The Fly.
The Fly, yeah. I mean, this is a rumination about life and death. Mm-hmm. What it means to go through it.
Yeah, and I feel like, every Cronenberg movie is kind of about, like, aging and cancer and just like the way our bodies break down and how it sucks to be a consciousness stuck in this
meat puppet
that is basically decaying from the second you are born. It's already breaking down
effectively.
And obviously Cronenberg is very upset by this concept and keeps sort of like mulling it over in his mind in different ways.
Well, if it's not life and death, it's definitely vaginas. And I'm not even talking about sex. I think it's just vaginas. See Videodrome.
Yeah. He's definitely got his like set of things he's obsessed with and can't stop.
Can't let him go.
Yeah.
But it's almost poignant if it wasn't necessarily for the horror, or maybe because of it.
Yeah. I think I don't know if this like had like awards nominations back in the day.
Almost certainly not.
Yeah,
like, Siskel and Ebert gave this 2 thumbs down, almost certainly. I want to look that up.
Yeah, I think this really speaks to like, the Oscars just happened a couple of days ago when we're recording this. And The Substance did not win any of like the main categories. They like kind of just threw it a bone in like best makeup, I think.
Yeah.
But like I think it's still a pretty big step forward that like it had so many nominations. It was sort of being acknowledged as like, this is body horror, this is genre filmmaking, but it has a message, it has something to say, and it's worth looking at it even if it's gross and we have to look away sometimes. And I feel like this movie is certainly a forerunner of that did not get the nearly the recognition outside of the genre fandom world that the Substance has gotten,
which is wild. But hey, times are changing, I guess. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse.
Yeah, in this one instance, I feel like the Fly walked so that the Substance could run, and I think we're better for it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, man, and okay, so like I said, I could have swore there was an ending scene. Maybe we talked about this, like an alternate ending where, it turns out, hey, the baby's perfectly fine. Maybe I'm conflating the other Fly movie. By the way, we're doing the Fly 2. I mean, I don't feel like doing a bit is appropriate right now. But.
Yeah, I mean, if you're surprised that we've done these other 4 and we're now moving on to the 5th.
I don't know what to tell you. You're a lost cause.
Yeah, and this is I think I've seen the Fly 2, but I don't remember anything about it. So I am pretty excited about it.
That is the truth of Eric Stoltz's career. I know I've seen him do things, but I don't remember it. So rough. No, yeah, it is. I would say it is a combination of the Return of the Fly and the Curse of the Fly.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind. All right. I feel like there's. Oh, also, Anthony, did you know there was an alternate ending to this movie?
No, okay.
Yes. It is the worst possible alternate ending to this movie. You can look this up. This is a scene that exists. So Ronnie wakes up after shooting her love of her life in the head and killing him. And she rolls over and there's Stathis. And he's like, "Oh, honey, are you okay? How's the baby?" Implying it's his baby. And then she has this weird fucking butterfly baby dream.
Okay.
It is, look it up. It's weird and dumb. And I'm glad the fans forced, or the audiences forced Cronenberg to remove that one.
Yeah, you can't go to the dream well twice in the same movie.
No. I mean, maybe you can, but it has to be called, as I said earlier, Nightmare on Elm Street, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, if it's not a movie about dreams, you can't, you can only have the one.
Yeah. Oh, well, Siskel and Ebert did rate The Fly as the 10th greatest film of 1986, so.
Wow.
So they did like it.
Yeah, that's surprising.
It is weirdly surprising, yes. All right, whatever. Anything else we got to say about this, Anthony?
I think that's it.
All right, where can they find us, my friend?
So you can find us on all the socials at The Frankencast. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. We're also over on YouTube. And, of course, we're at patreon.com/thefrankencast, where we've got all kinds of, a second episode every week. There's plenty of material there. If you haven't spent any time over there, you basically have a whole nother, run of the show that you're missing out on.
If you like this, you'll probably love that. We go to some wild places.
Absolutely.
And talk about some wild shows. All right, folks. Well, I'm still not feeling great, so to be continued, I'm going to pound some Tussin and Quaaludes. Bye.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.